Okay, can you guys hear me now? I kind of got out of turn. There we go. Okay, you guys should be able to hear me now. Okay, I kind of got out of turn. I was supposed to unmute it. Let's see here. Okay. Yeah, I'm gonna. We here. Yes. Okay. Great. Okay. Cool. I want to. Let me do this. I'm going to. We're going to talk about Concord, because Concord was the big topic of discussion yesterday, because the game was canceled and the studio behind it was canceled. I'm putting this out here. Let me do a couple of things too. Come on. Yeah, because we're going to talk about Concord. We're going to talk about Indiana Jones and its reviews and some of the capping that's going out already in regards to these reviews. And then we're going to talk about my experience with Call of Duty. Cold Blood may talk about Monster Hunter Wilds. He got to play that yesterday here on the platform. Hopefully you guys got to see that. All right, so let's do this. I want to pull up the tweet from Herm Holst. And then I want to pull up the tweet from FireWalk Studios. Let's see if I can find it. No, it's not letting me find it. Of course, because Twitter's search. Huh? Where is the letter? Hold on. No, Concord. Where is the letter? He didn't even put that on his Twitter account? Like, come on, bro. He didn't even put it on his Twitter account? Like, you gotta be kidding me, bro. Come on, man. Accountability. All right, I want to find his letter. Damn it. I think Wario had something out there. Where's the letter? Okay. Let me see if I can find Concord. Let me put Wario out here, because I think Wario had something out here yesterday. I didn't bookmark it. Okay, here we go. Thank you. Thank goodness for Wario. And I want to put FireWalk Studios out here too. We're going to talk about that. Their farewell letter. FireWalk Studios. Okay, so we got FireWalk Studios up here too. He's killing it. No. That's Herm Holst's. We're not putting Wario here. Let me just put FireWalk Studios. Here you go. FireWalk is signing on for our last time. Here goes their tweet. Put that out there. All right. So first, let's read this from Herm Holst. Shout out to everybody in the chat. We see the 62% of y'all already are saying, hell no. I'm going to actually play devil's advocate, and I'm going to explain why I'm not against them doing live service. But hear me out. I want you guys to hear me out. You gotta understand, there's always look at things from all angles. Things aren't just black and white to me. There's nuance. And in order for you to be able to navigate through the complications of life, you got to take into account the nuance. So I just want to show you guys why I am not totally against them doing games as a service. But I definitely do think that there are some much needed changes that have to come about. All right. So, but first, let's shout out people in the chat. Come on. Everything is acting up today, systematically. Why is everything messing up for me? Let's go get these comments social. All right, shout out to everybody. We got Navanzor says, yeah, we in here. We're Royal Vision. Ice Cream Gaming says, hey, MM2K, I know Sony had to close down FireWalk Studios, but it was the community fault and people hated on the game, but I understand why Sony did this. Muhammad says, hi, man, I had to subscribe just to tell you, McKay, that your pool makes in sense the way you're worded and the options given to vote. It says, just tell you, let me say that your poll makes no sense the way that you worded and the options given to vote. Let's see here. So should PlayStation continue their games as a service efforts or in, oh, okay, yeah, you're right. You're right. Yeah, it should just. You all right? Yeah, but I thank you for subscribing though, just to let me know that. It should say, should they continue their games as a service efforts, or should they end up? But you get the gist of it. He said the FireWalk. It says, I hope devs from FireWalk Studios find new jobs. Well, here's the thing, Ice Cream Gaming. Because of all this consolidation, it's going to be very hard for them, if not next to impossible. I mean, you had all this consolidation from Microsoft, from Embracer Group, and from other people. And when you have a consolidation, there is something called overlap, meaning, hey, look, you had developers of said studio when it was independent that are doing the same thing that we're doing here. We don't need replicate developer positions. So somebody has to go. So when you have acquisitions, it always shrinks the workforce. Always. That's not just developing, that's everywhere. Two banks merge. You don't need two CFOs or two people that do this or do that, so somebody has to go. So that's why I'm not a big fan of consolidation. And actually, I think the biggest, there has to be an end to the trends that are happening as of late. Something has to give. Matter of fact, let me end this poll. Oh, come on, stop. Because it is bothering me, and I think people are confused. I'm gonna end this poll. We're gonna start it back up. So if you don't mind, start a poll. Should Sony tweak and continue their games as a service effort, or stop trying and focus on single player narrative games? Okay. All right. Try games as a service still. Just do better. Stop games as a service. Focus on single player only. All right. Thank you for pointing that out. See, y'all, Aeolus Savici. All right. So, okay. Hopefully that makes sense now. Hopefully that makes sense. So if you guys could revote, should Sony tweak and continue their games as a service effort, or stop trying and focus on single player narrative games? Try games as a service, still just do. Okay. All right. So hopefully that makes sense. Did I do better, Savicki? Did I reword that properly, Savicki? All right. Now, let's read this letter from Herman Holst, and then we're going to read what FireWalk Studios had to say. He says, "Dear team, I want to share some important updates from Sony Interactive Studio Business Group. We consistently evaluate our games portfolio." Hold on, I'm sorry. Give me a second. Got to close out some things. A second, I'm sorry. Give me a second. Okay. All right. Let's try this again. This is today I want to share some important updates from Sony Interactive Entertainment Studios Business Group. We consistently evaluate our games portfolio and status of our projects to ensure we are meeting the near and long-term business priorities. As part of our ongoing efforts to strengthen SIE Studios business, we have made the difficult decision relating two of our studios, Neon Koi and FireWalk Studios, expanding beyond PlayStation devices and crafting engaging online experiences alongside our single-player games are key focal areas for us as we evolve our revenue streams. We need to be strategic, though, in bringing our games to new platforms and recognize when our games fall short of meeting player expectations. While mobile remains a priority growth area of the studio business, we are in the very early stage of our mobile efforts. To achieve success in this area, we need to concentrate on titles that are in line with PlayStation Studios' pedigree and have the potential to reach more players globally. With this refocused approach, Neon Koi will close and its mobile action game will not be moving forward. I want to express my gratitude to everyone at Neon Koi for their hard work and endless passion to innovate. Regarding FireWalk, as announced as early in September, certain aspects of Concord were exceptional, but others did not land with enough players, and as a result, we took the game offline. We have spent considerable time these past few months exploring all our options. After much thought, we have determined that the best path forward sorry about that, mic hit, was to permanently sunset the game and close the studio. I want to thank all of FireWalk for their craftsmanship, creative spirit, and dedication. The PvP first-person shooter genre is a competitive space that's continuously evolving, and unfortunately, we did not hit our targets with this title. We will take the lessons learned from Concord and continue to advance our live service capabilities to deliver future growth in this area. I know none of this is easy news to hear, particularly with colleagues and friends departing SIE. Both decisions were given serious thought, and ultimately we feel they are the right ones to strengthen the organization. Neon Koi and FireWalk were home to many talented individuals, and we will work to find placement for some of those impacted within our global community of studios where possible. I'm a big believer in benefits of embracing creative experimentation and developing new IP. However, growing through substantial financials, especially in a challenged economic environment, is critical. While today's is a difficult day, there is much to look forward to in the months ahead from the studio business group and our teams. I remain confident that we are building a resilient and capable organization driven by creating unforgettable entertainment experiences. All right, so that was what they had to say, or Herman Hulst had to say. All right, let's look at what the FireWalk Studios people said in response. They say FireWalk is signing off one last time. FireWalk began with the idea of bringing the joy of multiplayer to a larger audience. Along the way, we assembled an incredible team who were able to navigate growing a store. You know what? I don't want to read this shit. I'm sorry. I know that might sound insensitive or whatever. I don't want to read that shit. I truly don't. It says the FireWalk devs were absorbed into other studios. So while the studios did, Shaviki, do we have proof of that? I don't want to jump out the window and say that. And if you do have proof of that, let's point us in the direction of where someone has holistically said that. Because I was going to comment and say, hey, look, everybody is not going to be misplaced. Hopefully, because here, I want to show you guys. Let me show you guys something. Everybody shouldn't be misplaced, rather. If Herman Hulst's words are to be believed. Here's why I say that they shouldn't. And Savicki, I don't doubt that there are possibilities where that's going to happen. But here's the problem. We don't know. So until we get, because I'm very sensitive about this, as someone who has had the power of hiring and firing people and laying people off, you don't want to assume any of this. Very sensitive. I've been through the layoff process myself multiple times. So let's not just assume. I've had someone look me in my face through one of those instances to say, I'm going to do everything that I can to make sure, and they didn't. But thankfully, well, I don't want to say thankfully, but they realized that they were trying to save themselves money and let me go at a particular point in time when they had nobody to back up what I was doing. So they had to hire me back, compensate me even more, and put me somewhere else that I was satisfactory to. You know what I'm saying? So it worked out for me in the long run, but trust me, as someone who has had to pull that trigger and had that trigger pulled on them, you don't want to, let's not just assume, do we have like data or a link or a source that perfectly states, okay, the FireWalk team were absorbed into these groups? Do we know that? Because, okay, so nothing from, okay, all right. So yeah, let's be very careful with that. Because here in this comment, but it makes sense to me given, yeah, it makes sense to me too. And that's why I got what I got on the screen. We're about to talk about this. But again, as gamers, now see, okay, this is what I want to do here. I want us as gamers and us having discourse, I want us to evolve. I want us to evolve beyond, okay, Xbox is dog shit. Fucking Phil Spencer. Phil Spencer could lick my left nutsack. I want us to evolve beyond that, even though all that may be true. I want us to evolve beyond that, and I want us to be able to understand why a lot of these piss poor decisions are made at these companies, even the companies that we like, and how we, as the consumer, can influence them to do better. In order for us to do that, we have to be laser focused on what we hope that they do versus what they're actually doing and how we state that. So I'm not trying to pick on anybody. I just want us to understand that, okay, yeah, Xbox was dog shit and they have bent the knee. The fight is not over. Actually, the fight got more intense because now who is there to be the competitive guardrail for Sony? We've heard from various sources, which makes sense with the PlayStation 5 Pro, that the C-suite at Sony said, you know what? We could have sold this thing for less. But what was the incentive? There is no business justification of it because we don't have any competition. There is no Xbox Series X Pro. So why would we sell this for less? That type of stuff affects us as consumers. So now that Sony doesn't have competitive guardrails at all, they're completely operating in this lane all by themselves. And then we got people like Hiroki Totoki that is not embedded in a culture that's making some very questionable decisions. We already got Herman Holst that clearly we're discussing something questionable, this questionable decision that he made. The fight has gotten even more intense. And the fight is, look, calling out the BS, the bullshit, and all this capping that's happening for these games, particularly Xbox. But beyond that, making sure that these gaming companies do not beat us over the head with a cash register and not give us the biggest bang for our buck. So the fight is twofold. Okay, we've called out Xbox, and Xbox has nowhere else to corner themselves into. They've had to deal with the inevitable truth that they could not create a product as far as a platform was concerned that gamers at mass wanted. It was either you do better or you bow out. And they weren't going to do better, so they just bowed out. Okay, fine. But then the effect of that is now Sony doesn't have a competitive guardrail. Doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be bad, but in all likelihood, it could be a bad thing. We have to be that guardrail. So yeah, I agree with you, Savicki. It does make sense. And why does it make sense? Because Sony has this. One of the things that they did right, which I think it was common sense. I think if any of us were in charge at Sony, we would have done this. Is broken up Bungie. Bungie was a mess. And I know there's a lot of Destiny gamers that, feel nostalgic about Bungie, like Bungie could do no wrong, despite the accusation, the charges, the targets that they've done to creators and misframing stuff and just doing stuff egregious to creators. They didn't care about that. They love Destiny, so therefore then they love Bungie, right? But it was there apparent that Bungie, and even in their falsification of their worth to Sony, was a horrible company. It was a horrible company independently, and they needed to be reined in. And I think Sony is doing the right thing in extrapolating their upper talent and creating this, what you see on the screen, live service center of excellence, right? Now, some of you, and I can tell by this poll that some of you are like, oh, fuck that. The live service center of what? What is this bullshit? I'm going to show you guys why, in my opinion, the developers that are talented, the ones that are, I don't know who's who, I'm just saying the ones that are talented at FireWalk Studios, they should have a home that they're automatically turned to, as Savicki indicated, that I agree with. I just don't want to call it out of term. Here's why. This isn't an exact match of activity, but it's a mirror into the most popular games that are on the PlayStation Marketplace. Let's take a look at them. Let's just look at the top 20. Number 1, Fortnite. Number 2, Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2. Number 3, EA Sports FC. Number 4, Roblox. Number 5, Tom Clancy Rainbow Six Siege. Number 6, Grand Theft Auto 5. Number 7, Minecraft. Number 8, Overwatch. Number 9, Rocket League. Number 10, Dragon Ball. Sparking 0. Number 11, NBA 2K25. Number 12, Dead by Daylight. Number 13, Apex Legends. Number 14, Genshin Impact. Number 15, Red Dead Redemption 2. Number 16, EA Sports FC 24. Number 17, Rust Console Edition. Number 18, Destiny 2. Number 19, Metaphor ReFantazio. Number 20, Elden Ring. Did you guys notice something about that list?
Where's Hi-Fi Rush, bro? Where's Grounded?
So, Cold Blood in the house. Did you guys notice something about that list, though? What's going on, brother?
Yeah. I mean, no Xbox first party, no PlayStation first party up there.
No, there's Xbox first party up here. There's a couple of Xbox first party games up here.
What one that was made by Xbox Studios?
But they still.
Or are we talking about? No,
I'm not talking about the from the create. I'm not talking about the creative side,
bro. Nah. Activision is Activision, bro. Nah, fuck that.
Nah. You're focused on the creative. I'm the thing I'm focused on ain't on the creative side. It's on the business side, like who controls what. I'm not giving Xbox kudos you say, oh, they made Call of Duty. Oh, hell no. This is not me giving them kudos because they created something great. This is me just sitting there saying, who controls what out of the top 20 games on PlayStation? So you got Call of Duty up here, and you got Overwatch up here. You got Destiny up here, Destiny 2 up here. You got a couple of games that aren't games as a service, but I would say 80% of this list are not. No, you got 3 games up here that are owned by Xbox or Microsoft. You only have 1 game up here that's owned by PlayStation. So PlayStation as a business is looking at that, especially after the ABK purchase, and they're like, hold on, we are vulnerable. Like, it seems like that the top 20 games on our platform are games as a service titles. And our quote unquote competitor, right, if you want to call them that, which they're not one now, technically. I mean, well, technically they are one, but they're not one.
Okay, Moss, but is it really fair to use a list that you have to have someone in the fucking friends list, bro? Just so it can track you?
I mean, we can go to the most played on any store, and it's gonna mirror look like this. Like, we've done that exercise before. Like, the overwhelming majority of games that are in the top, and that's not a bad thing, but the overwhelming majority of games that are being played pretty much anywhere are games as a service titles. And then when you look at the list, like, I don't care which store you go to, Overwatch and Modern Warfare is in the top 20. And their own, and Minecraft is up there too. All 3 of those properties are owned by Microsoft. So I think it's more than fair to say, from a business perspective, what do we control out of the most popular games on our platform? And the answer is only 1 game. So that's why I think Sony is looking at the games as a service effort, and they're like, we got to protect ourselves a little bit better here, because again, you guys can't forget, just at the announcement of ABK, Sony lost $20 billion, not yen, dollars in stock evaluation. And it took them 2 years to get that back. Now, what does that mean? That's how much that's how much money was being funneled into the company for them to make moves and do things. They lost $20 billion of that. And it took them 2 years to get it back, just off of speculation. So to protect their business, they're saying, which I understand and I don't necessarily disagree with, we got to get more of these games in our lap. Here's the problem, in my opinion. It's how they went about doing it. Number 1, I think you did right by borrowing money and saying, look, we're not going to use our money or most of our money to fund this. We are going to use money from other people. We're going to take some of our money and invest it, but most of the money that we use, we're going to use this money that we borrow. So when people see that 55% of the budget went to live service games versus only 45% to single player games, most of that 55% came from investors. That wasn't Sony's money. That's money that they borrowed. Here's the problem. You borrowed the money so it doesn't fuck with the cyclical money that you have coming in from your single player games that bring in these third-party titles that fund everything. This is something separate, which is fine. You then started taking single-player talent and tried to force them into games as a service. That was fuck up number 1. Fuck up number 2 was, okay, now we want to start buying these companies when they're not proven. When you already have a blueprint with your most successful stint Helldivers 2. You didn't buy that studio. This is a second, you own the IP, it's a second party game. And then oh my gosh, then Herman Holst. That was another thing. This guy clearly, okay, so Cold Blood, I know we talked about this in the members, but if you don't mind repeating, you feel like there's one more game that can spare Herman Holst in his position. You know what I mean? That if he fucks up this game, no, what game is that?
Ghost of Yotei.
Okay. I want to make it abundantly clear that you're first and foremost saying this because I feel like in a month or so, as we go into 2025, you're going to have people echoing that. So I want to make that abundantly clear that came from Cold Blood. Or Cold Blood is the first person that you're hearing say that. Is that Ghost of Yotei? That's the make or break for this dude as far as competency. I think right now, at the very least, we can say that this dude cannot pick out a games as a service title. He has no business doing that. And that's probably this center of excellence, live center excellence, it began in 2022. So they didn't even stop Herman Holst's monstrosity. So letting Herman Holst decide, oh yeah, this is our flagship for 2024, flagship at all. Like, bro. And there's other things. So me personally, I get why they're doing it, and I'm not against it, but it has to be secondary to your. It's simple business. And this is why I don't get this Hiroki Totoki dude. Like, this isn't all on him. Herman Holst picked out Concord. Jim Ryan actually started this as a panic. So it's not on Hiroki Totoki. But he's like one of the worst stewards driving this. To me, it's simple business. If I sell hamburgers, but I want to get into selling chicken sandwiches too, I don't shut down my hamburger business and focus on something so unproven as me selling chicken sandwiches. You know, people going crazy over the Popeye sandwiches and this sandwich. I don't just jump in that craze and completely eradicate the thing. And shout out for the new sub. Thank you very much for that. I don't completely eradicate and go against the thing that's made my brand what it is today. Even just because you're prepping for the future, you don't shut off the spigot today. And pulling people to do games as a service, and then not having single player narrative games available, but then thinking that you could have games as a service as a flagship, especially a game like Concord. To me, that was piss poor pacing. Piss poor pacing. You could have swapped a couple of games around and did some other shit. Piss poor pacing, bro. Maybe for the holiday season, you have you push back Final Fantasy, or you try to convince. Well, that's more of a Square Enix thing, and they don't know what the fuck they're doing. But there's some other things that could have been done to where we would have had a flagship, and I feel like that this game goes into the beginning quarter of 2025, like how Helldivers did. Hold on one second. Cold blood. Hello? Oh, yeah. See, he's at work. All right, guys, we're going to take just like a short, I know we're just getting things revved up. Shit is always happening on my end. I got to make this business call. It's going to take like 5 minutes. So here's what I'm going to do. Let me just play a video in the interim, and I'll be back in like 5 minutes. So we'll be right back. You guys know I love talking all things Xbox and PlayStation. I love talking about when somebody's doing great. I love talking about when either of the heads of these platforms, like when Phil Spencer goofs up and doesn't come through with a promise, or even Herman Holst puts all of his weight behind something as crazy as Concord, right? I love giving my 2 cents about it. But this time around, we got to change it up, because I now got to ask you the question. In light of a lot of the recent events, like the reaction from the Xbox community about Tokyo Game Show. Look, the way Phil even looked at Tokyo Game Show, bro looked stressed. The reaction to Shattered Space, the demoralization of the Xbox community. Like, they're not even talking about anything uplifting on the community front anymore. The ambassador program has been eradicated. Like, in lieu of all this stuff that has hit so heavy in regards to Xbox in 2024 in not a positive way, I'm now going to turn the tables and ask you, because I need help understanding this. What in the world is a new Xbox going to do? Like, seriously, I'm not trying to be facetious. Help me understand that. Let's talk about this. Let's get into it. This is the spiel. What's up, people? It's your boy MM2K here of Hard Knock Digital Culture, Cloud Dosage, and MM2K Gaming, back again with another episode of The Spill. This is where we talk about the latest and greatest in video gaming news, but I'm going to be honest with you. This one is going to be more ranty than anything. And I'm not going to take forever doing it, because this is just like a real simple, straightforward question that I'm hoping to get help from you on. But before we get into all that, do us a huge favor, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and rock those bells for notifications, please. It's like I said in the bumper, man. Like, I really woke up this morning and said to myself, I tried to imagine, I'm an Xbox gamer, right? Imagine being an Xbox gamer. And imagine investing $500 in a console. Or even $300. Imagine what you were told at the beginning of the generation, that this Xbox Series X was the world's most powerful console. And when you were asking about the power, like, how powerful is it? You know, Xbox was telling you some things in videos that they've had to unlist, right? But we downloaded them. We got them. Game Pass was supposed to be this ultimate treasure that would bring you the best in gaming. It's fallen flat. And I'm just talking pure delivery here. This is not me trying to kick in Phil Spencer's ribs. I'm just talking what the gamers have been delivered. You thought you were going to get the best games. You thought, okay, I exclusively had Starfield, which is the game of the generation. And look, even though if you want to cap for it, you guys know deep down inside you, I cannot record your reactions to this video and document it and put it on the internet. You can just say this to yourself. I know Starfield was mad. I know it was mad. That's all you got to do. Say it to yourself. I know Starfield didn't do what it was supposed to do. I get it. You know what I mean? It was not what it was cracked up to be, and it's not living up to its hype. We've seen the reaction to Shattered Space. We've seen what was the poor delivery in Redfall. We're seeing all this stuff that you guys were waiting for and you were excited for. And now it's gotten to the point that you've been disappointed so much, you don't even know if to be excited for Indiana Jones. I mean, it's not exclusive. It's going to PlayStation. So now it's got you contemplating, why did I even buy this box? Why did I spend $500 for it, $300 for it? I was told it was the world's most powerful console. I was told it was going to play 1440p games at 60 frames per second consistently. It only did that with the old games. Like the pure promise of these boxes were more active as a mid-gen refresh. You know what I'm saying? Like a second mid-gen refresh. They're great with the older games, but as far as all the aspirations and hopes that you had with the newer games, they've completely fallen flat. Then you look at the community, they don't even know, they can't even be excited about Xbox anymore. So what they've gone to, or what they've gravitated to, is hating on PlayStation. That's all they can do now. And then when you convert over to the Xbox brass, like, is there any hope there? Maybe it's just we're overreacting. Maybe we're just spreading doom and gloom and FUD, and we're just overreacting and not just enjoying games. When you look at the Xbox brass, I mean, Phil Spencer looks like he hasn't eaten in decades. Even Sarah Bond looks stressed. Like they did not look joyful. They did not look gleeful. It looks like every time they talk about this new Xbox post ABK, that it's like pulling teeth out of a freaking turtle, man. It does not look like extrapolating happiness out of these folks is plausible. Pulling teeth out of a turtle, right? So my question is, in lieu of all this mind share that they lost, in lieu of the fact that you've already had a situation where you pretty much had the lead in mind share, all right, going into the Xbox One generation, you had the lead in mind share. It might have been ever so slight, but you still had it. And you lost it. And you were to take those years in the Xbox One generation to rebound and go full gusto and become competitive again. And for that effort to fall flatter than ever before. My question is, with this regime, if throwing everything but the kitchen sink at you, if they cannot get mindshare back, then what's the point? Why is there another Xbox? Why will there be one? And why is the community even looking at this in a comparative nature? Here's my thoughts, y'all. Like I said, we're not going to be here long this time around. I truly think that you have two options here if you're part of the Xbox community. And you either got to decide, A, are we going to be competitive, or B, are we going to kick and scratch and claw for survival? If you want to go with B, then what you need to do is support Phil Spencer in whatever he does. Don't complain about it. Just support Phil Spencer in whatever he does. The only time I wouldn't support Phil Spencer is if he's trying to build contrast between them and PlayStation. I would be like, no, Phil, stop. No, don't do this. Don't do this. Stay in your lane. Your lane is to make sure that Xbox in name survives. So how does it survive? By putting their games now on PlayStation, by continuing to draw money, and then for me, the consumer, continue to build on whatever benefits I get from being in Game Pass. As they decrease, let's try to maintain something. Okay, if I'm in Game Pass and I have Game Pass Ultimate, I'm guaranteed day and date access to Xbox games. Okay, because if I love Xbox games that much, I'm guaranteed day and date access to Xbox games. Now that there's a possibility or the talking of we're going to now allow you to play your solo purchase games via the cloud, which you need Xbox Game Pass Ultimate for. Okay, great. Okay, sorry about that, guys. And actually, I might have to do this again because I'm waiting on an important phone call. But sorry about that. So yeah, we were talking about, make sure I get everything unmuted. We were talking about this service center of excellence, which we hope FireWalk Studios can get embedded into, but the problems that we have at the leadership level at PlayStation And the problem being that they try to cannibalize activity from the single player side with the games as a service side. Look, here's the thing, PlayStation, and I feel that they recognize a lot of this, and I'm gonna get to a lot of your comments too in the chat. The thing is that this were supposed to be two ubiquitous entities operating parallel to each other, meaning, yes, the games as a service people were supposed to do their thing, and that was supposed to have no effect on the single player people. And I don't know why these businesses who have this blueprint, well, they do that when they don't understand gamers. And there's some type of disconnect with Herman Holst. I don't understand what it is, because I don't understand how he looked at Concord and was like, oh yeah, got all creamy knuckled over Concord. I don't know how he did that. But I will say that there's definitely a disconnect with Hiroki Totoki and some of the things that he's doing, pushing day and date release on PC, particularly when there's historical data out there that shows that Microsoft, who has done that, has seen the lowest margins of growth out of the big three ever since they started doing that in 2016. There's historical data to show that. But when you're not embedded in the culture and you don't understand why these things are happening and you think it's just a timing thing, like for instance, for PlayStation 3 to try to like be everything that it can be in your home, start your refrigerator and all this other shit with the cell processor, and it not being a great gaming device at launch, for that to happen and then Xbox to follow right behind them with the Xbox One. And not saying that the Xbox One was a horrible gaming platform, but again, you have the title of power. You should not forsake that. That's part of you, that's etched into your brand. And for you to give that up to the PlayStation 4, just when you saw the ramifications of that with the PlayStation 3 is mind-boggling. A lot of these companies think that these ideas are just a matter of timing. And in some instances they are, but more likely than not, it's just all about understanding the psyche of the gamer. It may be timing. It may just never be something that's going to work. So what I don't understand is why Sony doesn't look at Helldivers 2 and say, okay, holy shit, here's a game that we charged for. It's not really AAA, but it has co-op elements or PvE and PvP elements in it. We charge $40 for it, and we put it out in the first quarter when things are, atypically slower, and it's not riddled with a whole bunch of blockbuster games. Now Sony this year alone, though, bucked the norm. You know what I'm saying? And they came out with a whole bunch of blockbuster shit, but you get where I'm coming from. I don't see why they wouldn't look at Concord and say, this game needs PvE, or if it's going to be straight PvP, it needs to be free to play. It needs to come out first quarter. Like, why wouldn't you replicate that success? And I talk about, and I'm gonna get to your comments, I promise. I talk about in the member section. This is why you should be a member. Because I got to be careful how to say this publicly. So in the members section, I talk about a very close source that I can validate to this, can confirm that when there was testing of this game, before you guys even knew what it was, when there was testing of Concord, that the feedback was negative. And the words of this source was, it was the most negative that they've seen of any of the games that they've tested. And there's very specific accounts that I give that I got to be careful doing that on the public forum. But they still push this through, where I think if somebody would have cautioned themselves and said, you know what? We know Herman is behind this baby, but maybe we need to pump the brakes on this. Still put it out, but work on a pathway towards PvE and put it out in a more, plausible time frame, not close to the holiday season, but like early 2025 or maybe a early 2020, summer 2026 or something like that. We can start whipping in some PvE stuff into this. That's what they should have done. This could be a totally different story we're talking about right now. So then I look at Marathon and I look at Fair Games and I'm like, holy crap, what's going to happen there? So just bad decisions there. But I didn't believe the $400 million figure. I still don't. I can see the $200 million figure is more plausible. Buying the IP, continuing development. They say that $200 million focus or figure doesn't include marketing, but there was hardly no marketing for this game. So the cost, if you include marketing, it's not ballooning past that. Yeah, it's a problem. It's a problem, and this is why leadership is key here. And this center, like we looked at it, the Center for Online Excellence, it failed. Now, granted, maybe that they've extrapolated Bungie people, it'll be better. Now you're probably saying, well, why would you put FireWalk Studios people in here? Well, they're veteran, Destiny and Overwatch people. They have experience on this. It's just that the collage that was put together for this game. And look, let me say this, man. Let me say this. It's not that, and I know there's gooftards out here clipping. It's not that Concord was the most horrible game ever. It's not. Like, I would pay $1 million to play Concord before I would play Redfall for free. Like, if you're like, you got two choices, MM2K. You either complete Redfall or you pay us $1 million. Man, I'm selling blood marrow. I'm selling I'm doing whatever I can. It's not, so Concord is not the worst game ever. It's just, there's nothing special about it. It's just, nah. And you got this meh game that is a carbon copy of other stuff that is already out there that's not done in a spectacular way. And you slap a $40 price tag on it when the comparatives are free to play, and then you roll it out close to the holiday season. You just got a recipe for disaster. That I think that had you tweaked in the right areas, we could be talking a totally different story here. So, yeah. You got to be self-aware of the right business structure. $40 worked for Helldivers 2 because it felt like a complete games as a service experience that included PvE and PvP. There's a lot of people that don't like. I'm one of them. I can't stand PvP. I'm not paying $40. If all you got is PvP, I'm not buying it. Where I bought Helldivers 2 because it had, there's a lot of people that just do PvP, but not everybody does PvP. Like, there's a lot of people that just play single player experiences, to where if they are going to do a games as a service experience, they're going to flock to the PvE. That's, if you're charging for a game, I think in 2024, I feel like that there should be a PvE component. Otherwise, it just doesn't make sense to me. That's why Helldivers 2 that's part of the reason why Helldivers 2 is a success. The other part of it is that Helldivers 2 was unique in that space for various reasons. So even if your PvP experience is just an aesthetic mash together of Overwatch and Destiny, that PvE experience could have been the thing that separated you from the pack. 3, keep the brand intact while you're trying to expand. Like, go and do your games as a service exercise, and it should not affect your single player narrative exercise at all. We heard this argument. Oh, well, you can't consider Naughty Dog the best because they can't do single player and multiplayer. Let me tell you something. The way Naughty Dog does single player is when it pertains to The Last of Us, nobody can touch them. Don't get me wrong. You can look at a Rockstar game and it can get a lot. It can get a lot of hands on it and more than Naughty, but the quality aspects of it, like if Last of Us was multiplat day one, easily, it would be able to buck in numbers with the Rockstar title easily. That's how much quality is in those titles, particularly the Last of Us series. That being said, that's just how well they do what they do. So let them do what they do. Rockstar has a way of creating a campaign that is also compelling and great and on of the highest echelon. But then what reels you in, or what brings Rockstar its massive success, is its multiplayer components. So think of, have you ever been at a restaurant and you came for the steak or whatever, but the appetizers were like fucking awesome? Like, holy cow. Yeah, that's Rockstar. They can make awesome appetizers, but believe you me, their appetizer is their campaign. Their steak and potatoes is the fucking multiplayer. Where the way Naughty Dog approaches their games, particularly Last of Us, their steak and potatoes, of course, is their single player that puts theirs a couple of notches above Rockstar campaign. So they're the best at they're the best at those. They are. Period. Let them do what they do. Do not try to make them something that they aren't. All right, let's get to this chat, man. Y'all are killing it, and then we're gonna move on to the next topic. I wonder if I'm gonna get this phone call. We got like 30 more minutes. See here. Hold on one second. Let me. Oh. Okay. All right. So let's get to the chat. Ella Ponte says, I hope the people who made the shooting map design they keep because it was so crisp, no bugs, character. Yeah, like I feel like they can use them. Like I said, the game wasn't horrible. I feel like they could use them in some other aspects. I just think the way it was packaged together, it wasn't something that should have been rolled out as a main course. I just used the main course scenario. I don't think it was something that should have been rolled out as a main course. And that's Herman Hulse's fault. That's him. We can't evolve beyond that when Indiana Jank is factual garbage. Left nutsack. Does that mean you got a second set on the right? I doubt Sony spent that much on acquiring FireWalk since the team didn't have any IP or anything else to leverage for that kind of money. Yeah, I think the 200 million, and Corey, in my opinion, I think it's like they're rounding up to 200 million. I can easily see development of the game being, 100 million. I can see that. I can see, other things, including the purchase of the IP being 75 million, especially if the rumors are true that Herman Hulse really believed in this game. And let's not put it all on Herman Hulse. I mean, Jim Ryan pulled the trigger on this, right? Like I've always stated, I said, I think Jim Ryan's retirement, I remember I said that back in the day, and people were like, oh no, you're making more of it, MM. You just try to, do some PlayStation shake. I said, I think Jim Ryan's retirement was an equal, it's time for me to go, and an equal, yeah, let's walk you out the door. It was like a mutual thing, like, you did a lot of great stuff, Jim. So let's send you out with a bang, but we got to send you out. Because I think his reaction to the ABK deal, the things that he alluded to where he was off base on, and the fact that he was pretty much ineffective in stopping the deal after he made assurances to the boards before Microsoft started playing hardball. Oh, there's nothing to worry about, right? Then he scrambled. Then his reaction was to scramble and buy this studio, buy the Jade Raymond studio. They bought Bungie, right? When did they buy Bungie? I think they bought Bungie after the APK announcement. Am I right or am I wrong? When did PlayStation or Sony buy Bungie? July 2022. Yep. And I feel like when was ABK deal announced? January. Yeah. So ABK deal is announced January. Sony buys Bungie in July. And look at the mess that has become. I mean, they can eventually turn lemons into lemonade, but this was a big fucking mess. And you can't cap that. I think it's fair to say if Sony knew what they know now about Bungie, they probably wouldn't have bought them. I think that's a fair assessment to make. They wouldn't have bought them. But they can possibly turn lemons into lemonade. I think extrapolating their talent to head this Bungie Center of Excellence, or this Live Center Service of Excellence, I think is the right move. So yeah, I believe that it's, I would say 100. I can believe 150 million to 200 million. I can believe that 100 million in developing a game, Corey, is nothing in 2024. Fuck, BioShock Infinite was $100 million. That game came out, was that a 2013 game or some shit? I mean, that price blew our minds back then, 11 years later. Yeah, I believe that it was 100 million, close to 100 million to make. And I could see if they really did think that this IP was going to be it, them spending 50 million to get it. They spend more. Look, they spend more money when they partner with IP. I mean, but they partner with studios and get IP. Yeah, that's nothing in gaming today. 400 million is ridiculous, and I don't believe it's too much over 200 million, if over 200 million at all. Mary Wilcox says, plus Sony knew the risk getting into this whole live service. Not to be insensitive, but if you do a bad job, you get fired. It seems people think the gaming industry should be different. Now, here's the problem with that, Juice. It's not necessarily that FireWalk did a bad job, because, okay, let me give you a prime example. You guys laughed at Stadia, right? And y'all thought, and I'm gonna check the fucking receipts on y'all that say, oh yeah, Juice, you right. I'm gonna look for receipts. So y'all better start deleting tweets. When Phil Harrison came out there and said, hey, you SG&E, the Stadia developers, you guys are doing a great job, fantastic. Only a month later to let them go, you guys eviscerated Phil Harrison. You fucking low life, this and that, right? All these people were doing is what they were told. Fucking, what's the name, told them that this game was great. Herman Hulst is the one that wouldn't market it, that wouldn't pump the brakes and say, okay, maybe what we asked you guys to do, or our original expectations are not going to be good enough for our clientele. Maybe what we should do is, can you guys do a little bit more? I can understand if they would have pumped the brakes on the game, had them rework some stuff, and then it's still bombed. Then you get rid of them. I get that. But this was a total clusterfuck of epic proportions, and it's all on Herman Hulst and Jim Ryan. Jim Ryan's gone, so now it's got to fall on Herman Hulst. What's up, Devil Shooter? Good to see you. Hello, Marion Ice Cream Gaming. Okay. I fully believe the Pro is 700 because they knew the Xbox Series X 2 terabyte SKU was 600. Had the new Series X been 500, the Pro would have been 600. So I don't know how much Xbox was a guardrail for the play. I look at it differently. I think they knew that they was going to be $700. Why? They're developing for it. That's information that likely would have been shared, or they would have, even if it wasn't shared, they would have got an inkling of what the price was going to be. So them knowing this is going to be 700, we don't have a mid-gen refresh. But I think that led to them having the audacity of charging $600. Savicki. So I think it's a complete opposite. They knew they could get away with putting an extra terabyte in their own proprietary fucking drive and charge an extra $100 for it and put some glitter on the motherfucker. They knew what they were doing, and it was dog shit. So I look at it the other way. As someone who works as a senior manager who does the hiring and firing of our team, yeah, it's wild that people seem to think you can be bad at your. Nah, see, yeah. Well, then Herman Hulst needs to be fired. Corey, let me give you an example. I before I went on the special project, what I'm doing right now, I managed managers, right? I was at a VP level in my department before I moved on to special projects. When a program or something that we made heavy investments into was not panning out, it was my head on the platter. I remember I built a program and I had us invest in this program that kept getting bottlenecked. It wasn't going anywhere. You know what I'm saying? And they fired the developers that were working directly with me, and they said, okay, maybe we'll get better developers. But whoever we get, it better work. Because if it doesn't work, you're gone. That was what was told to me. And you know what I said? I said, fuck that. I control my own destiny. And guess what? I taught myself SQL so I could finish the project on my own. I ended up winning an award for it afterwards. So, and particularly we're talking about a Japanese company. If that is the thought process, it's definitely leadership's head that should be on a roll. So, okay, I won't argue with you. Herman Hulse should be fired then. The rollout, the investment, all that was him and Jim Ryan. Jim Ryan is gone. This game didn't fail because, and look, you say it yourself, Corey, you were arguing yourself that the game wasn't that bad. So you guys can't play both sides of the fence. If the game wasn't that bad, then FireWalk Studios didn't fail. Jim Ryan failed in the amount of attention and investment and the lack of a sufficient rollout that led this game to bombing. Nobody was asking for this game. It was no longer needed at the level that it was originally needed at because APK ain't going nowhere now. So leadership should have repurposed the efforts and came out with something different. The leadership that was that signed off on that would have been Herman Hulse. Herman Hulse was like, no, this is a great experience. You guys are going to love this. I love what they're doing. Leave it at it as is, business as usual. So to go alongside with your argument, okay, fine, Herman Hulse should be gone then. That's who's responsible for this being a failure. Corey Massey, FireWalk was given a chance. They failed. They're gone. This sort of thing happens. I don't get why people all of a sudden are surprised. Wow. You guys are, so this is what I find unique. This is what I find unique. And this is the hubris of this all. When we originally was telling you guys that Concord was a piece of dog poo, it was bullshit, you guys argued us up and down. Some of y'all unfollowed us. I can no longer indulge in this channel because of the Concord hate that is being demonstrated here. You guys treated us like an albatross, right? Me and Cold Blood were like arsenic in your favorite drink. Now that PlayStation, who did not give them the proper support to make something that could resonate with the consumer base, now they failed. They fucked up. When before you guys were arguing, this is not a bad game. And I won't say that it's not a horrible game. And there was a lot of potential there for it to be something that would be universally accepted by the PlayStation community. The reason why it wasn't accepted was, number one, the vision that the leader Herman Hulse wanted was not the vision that his consumer base wanted. You got to remember, FireWalk was just absorbed a couple of years ago into Sony. Before, they were just making a standard game to fit under a standard litmus. Sony absorbed them. If there's anybody that knows what the PlayStation community wants, it is Herman Hulse, or should be Herman Hulse. Herman Hulse failed here. So I'm going to agree with you all of you guys and gals that have the hubris now of trying to put this all on FireWalk. Herman Hulse should be fired. He should be fired. Using your logic, he should be gone. It should be gone. Now, Cold Blood is saying, which I agree, I'm just following you guys' logic. His last hope of redemption is Ghost of Yatai. If Ghost of Yatai is stellar, it's fantastic. That's something that he's managed. He's competent in being able to help manage still great titles, and it's single player games. He needs somebody as a buffer to help ensure that the games as a service efforts are done correctly, because he clearly does not have an eye for it. That's the same thing I say for Phil Spencer. Well, Phil Spencer, he just doesn't have an eye for good games altogether. He needs somebody else there to be a buffer to ensure that great games are being created. If Ghost of Yatai comes out and is fantastic, then Herman Holtz's problem is having his finger on the pulse of games as a service titles. So he says, let's see here. I played Destiny 2 the other day, plus I nearly forgot how to play it. It's been a while. He says, real talk, says Corey, gamers may not like it, but Phil has made Microsoft money. Things like Game Pass are a response to lagging game sales on the platform, and Phil managed to find a way to entice people to prepay. Okay, so to explain the money that Phil has made, Corey, Phil has made more money than the legacy Xbox, who their goal was simply to thwart PlayStation. That's all their goal was to thwart PlayStation. And they bear no expense. So when you bear no expense in order to thwart PlayStation, you do shit like put a console out with a 60% failure rate and just pay the $2 billion later. So giving credit to Phil Spencer to quote unquote making money now, when the legacy Xbox wasn't about making money, it was just thwarting PlayStation. I that's a false equivalency. I think you're giving Phil Spencer more props than you need to give him. And they're not making more money because of Game Pass. When we've done the math here before, which you've agreed to. If Xbox were to just sell the games a la carte versus putting them in Game Pass, they would make a lot more money. They're paying $1 billion just to get third party content in there. When you crunch the numbers of the revenue that Game Pass brings in, and you look at how much money they're putting into the games that are going in there day and date, and then you factor in these partnerships, there's not a lot of profit being made. There's a lot of revenue being made, not a lot of profit. So we gotta be careful on what we talk about the money that Phil Spencer is making. The money that Phil Spencer is making is purely off of the third-party sales. And the third-party sales based off of the Leviathan games, the Fortnites, the Minecrafts, the Apex Legends. Those are, footing the bill for Microsoft. Let me go further down to get to more recent comments. Let's see here. According to the people who can't stand him for some reason, but we know he has an eye for great games. Hold on, he says, Mary, people forget that he was the head of the studio. Yeah, well, no. He was the head of a studio. And yes, he has a decent track record on single player narrative games. He has a decent track record there. I want to see this track record when it comes to the next games as a service title. And I'm sorry. let's stop this. Let's stop this. This is why you guys are going to get beaten in the head with a cash register. And as you're sitting there stumbling, bleeding, you're going to want to come back here. Man, what happened? Let's stop this. Concord, you guys now are agreeing. You guys are all over the place. You guys are now agreeing that Concord wasn't good enough. Who greenlit that? Concord was one of the most colossal failures in gaming history. Redfall may be a worse game, but even Redfall wasn't such an abysmal failure as Concord was. Concord was more of an abysmal failure than Redfall. That shouldn't even be possible. So I look and I laugh at Phil who greenlit Redfall, and I can't. And if you're gonna laugh at Phil, you gotta look at Herman Hulse who greenlit Concord and said, and not it ain't necessarily that Concord was greenlit. You purchased this studio and you rolled this out as like some premier first party title when your approach to this game should have been entirely different, and there should be PvE added to it. And I can't help but look at you and question your veracity going forward. And so we look at Ghost of Yatai, and we can, if Ghost of Yatai rolls out and it's great, then we can at least say, okay, this guy still has a great eye for single player narrative games. He clearly needs help with the games as a service push, because look, I'm going to show you guys the list again. Most of the top 20 PlayStation games overwhelmingly don't belong to PlayStation. After losing $20 billion in stock evaluation just at the announcement of a deal, it makes sense for PlayStation to continue. But they gotta be better at it. And Herman Hulse has to do a lot of soul searching when it comes to this effort, because it's part of his resume. Herman Hulse just doesn't get to sit there and say, well, phooey, Hiroki, I only want to deal with single player games. He doesn't get to say that. He manages both. So he better figure it out. He better do some soul searching, because they're not dropping the single player initiative. I mean, the games as a service initiative. They can't. Look at this. They can't. All right. I'm looking at you guys. You guys are insane here. I can respect Andrew Wilkins, because even I totally disagree with him. He's sticking to his guns. He's sticking to his guns. I can respect Andrew Wilkins, because he's still sticking to his guns that Concord isn't a horrible game. It isn't the worst. At least he's not all over the place. So I can respect his. I can't respect y'all who argued us down a couple of months ago that Concord, oh man, just give it a chance, and now, oh well, it's just a failure. Stop it. I can respect that. Bender of String says Sony should be following the Warhammer SM2 formula for future multiplayer. I don't think that. Space Marine 2 was a cool experience. I don't think that's I don't think that's the winning successful formula. So it's of the better Warhammer games. I think Sony just needs to ensure a couple of things. Number one, they completely separate their single player talent and online and games as a service talent. They don't overlap and they don't affect each other. And more importantly, they release these games at the right time and they give them the right support. All right, let's do the. Somebody. MM2K Gaming News. For the record, I wasn't around for all that. Laugh out loud, says Ray Wilcox. All right, let's do this. Let's move on. I do want to show you guys this. I thought this was funny. Brooms, our favorite creator, Broomstick. He's capping already for Indiana Jones. Mind you, the aforementioned Redfall, we've already talked about Redfall being a horrible one. I consider Concord a bigger failure, but I think Redfall is by far the worst AAA experience since Rogue Warrior and Dark Sector. And those are Xbox 360 games. Redfall might even be worse than them. So when the previews, if you remember when the previews for Redfall came out, everybody was like all creamy knuckled and, you know, Redfall is going to be the game, is, you know, game of the year. They were just capping for Redfall. And then the game came out and it was utter dog shit. There were only two entities that spoke out and called Redfall out for what it was. It was Giant Bomb and it was PC Gamer. And if you remember, both of those publications were harassed, called everything but the child of God, and all types of shit. And they come to find out they were right. So now again with Indiana Jones, PC Gamer released a tweet or released an article saying that it's meh. It's meh. It's nothing special, right? Here goes Boomstick trying to comment on PC Gamer, who was at the preview event, once again spilling their truth, which I believe PC Gamer over Broomstick. I don't know about you. Let's hear what he has to say about all this. And let me put this in here just for Cold Blood to hear too.
I'm also someone that will appreciate a slow, story-driven narrative. Now, I will say this. I don't necessarily know if this is going to be... Now, you talk about reviews. And I don't know. I just... This could... I put it this way. Even if this game was full-on third person and it was a carbon copy of what Nathan Drake does in his adventures for PlayStation, I still believe that they would dump on this game. And I believe that the scores are going to reflect that. I really do. Like, I have lost so much faith in gaming. And a perfect example of that is the tweet I put out right before the show went live of PC Gamer. They basically were invited to the same event that I was and played the same amount of time. They said they played 3 hours. I don't know how that's possible. I only got 2 hours and some change. They said they got 3 hours. Okay, good on them. And then it was a complete bore fest to them.
Yeah, bull crap. I don't believe him. Just the capping is hilarious. It's hilarious. Like, get out of here, bro. Stop it. I'm gonna side with PC Gamer. I've seen nothing special about this game, and it is what it is. We'll see, because when it comes out, it'll be in Game Pass. I'll have access to it, whatever. The last thing I want to say is Call of Duty. I don't know if Cold Blood is still around or if because he has night shift this week. I played Call of Duty. Now, granted, I got a couple of videos coming out in different places. The video that I'm going to have here is it's going to highlight some gameplay, but it's going to show you how long it took me to get in the game. Now, granted, I'm playing via GeForce Now, and you've heard Xbox, completely, talk about, oh, you can play our games everywhere, GeForce Now, xCloud, whatever, you know what I'm saying? And trying to play the game through GeForce Now is horrific because it doesn't sync up right, especially if you're trying to do it through Game Pass. It doesn't sync up right. It's not a GeForce Now problem. It has to do with this Call of Duty Warzone UI that tries to take you to different games. It's a mess, right? And then I'm trying to simply check because I'm getting like 135 frames on the game, so I'm trying to tweak and see if I can get better visuals. It kicks me out of this. It's just horrible. It's horrible. So be prepared for that. Hopefully there's a workaround with that. But I played the game. I got like 15-20 minutes of gameplay that I can show you. And my experience with the game is it's fine. The campaign is okay. And again, it's just 15, 20 minutes. It's okay. The guns were cool. A lot of people's, complaints about the audio, I can validate it. The audio isn't that great, but it's okay. It's okay. So that gameplay is going to be coming. Cold Blood, when he gets a chance, he can give you his thoughts on the gameplay. But yeah, it's pulling. Like, let's do a quick pulse check on it. I know we've been talking about, well, what is it going to do? What is it doing for Game Pass or whatever? I don't know if it's doing something sustained for Game Pass. It might be the Starfield effect, where a whole bunch of people get a shitload of people get Game Pass just to finesse the game and for a month and go about their business. So that's going to lead to situations to where people are going to be paying $17 to play the game, try it out, go about their business after they beat the campaign, because the campaign I hear is only like 7 to 9 hours. Versus you having to pay $70 for it. That's not good. But we'll see. But let's see what it's doing on Steam right now to try to get like a pulse of Call of Duty Black Ops 6. Black Ops 6. See. That can't be right. Hold on, what's going on? Let me go to the charts. Okay, so right now there is 220,000 people in. There was an all-time peak of 491,000. Oh, that was over a year ago. Okay. I mean, so it's maintaining around 200,000, which isn't bad. There's a lot of people that don't like that give it negative scores because of the bugs and stuff like that. I can attest to that. It's just, it's horrible to interact with. I think it has to do with that Call of Duty hub. They need to get rid of that. But yeah, it's Call of Duty. I think it's going to do great sales wise. But I think it's going to take a hit because of the Game Pass effect. And I don't know if there's going to be enough sustained Game Pass subscriptions to make up for it. Like we surmise, after doing the math, you're going to want to subscribe. You're going to need, if people are playing this through Game Pass, you're going to want them to be subscribed to Game Pass for at least 5 months. If they're subscribed to Game Pass for under 5 months, then it's not worth it. You would have lost money in putting it in Game Pass. You need people to be subscribed to Game Pass for almost a year if they're coming to Game Pass for Call of Duty, or else you're losing money on this, per the math that we did. So we'll see. But those are just our thoughts. We're gonna end this poll right here about, Sony, should they do games as a service? I feel like I made a case for them doing games as a service, but they just need to do better at it. With that said, appreciate it, everybody. Thank you so much for checking out the show. That is our show for today. We're going to be here tomorrow. Now, here's what I want to do. I want to say this. The hot topic definitively is going to be Dragon Age Veilguard. There are so many layers to the conversation around this game that, because of YouTube and, how they treat certain subject matters, we're not going to have a full-fledged discussion about everything about that game, because I don't want to pull the trigger on YouTube's speech police, right? And then ultimately fuck up the channel long term. But join us if you're a member. Join us in the member. We're going to have member conversations about this. We're going to be watching the scores. We're going to be watching the user takes of this game as it comes out tomorrow, because there's a lot to be talked about, particularly Matty Plays and how he was handled by the community. I'm going to be on. I will say this. I think that was egregious of what people tried to do to Matty. And I think there was a reason behind that. We'll talk about all that, and we'll see how this game really lays. And I'm going to get my hands on this game as well, because I don't like to armchair quarterback. I like to talk from experience. So if you want to, join our full discussion of the game in totality, everything involving it, join us and become a member. But yeah, one of the hot topics for tomorrow is definitely going to be Dragon Age the Veilguard. With that said, I appreciate everybody. Thank you so much. Until next time, you guys have a wonderful gaming day. Peace.